Very cosmic.
Well,
Other
hi,
world.
thanks. Thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed the series. So to start out, Jeff, can you talk about sort of how, I mean, how did this come to be? Were you asked to do it, or did somebody come up with the idea? How did it start?
It started with Jennifer's book Good Stuff on a bookstall in an airport when I was looking for something to read on a long flight, and I became fascinated with the kind of wit and humor of the man, as Jennifer relayed. But really, the thing that slightly blew me away was that I didn't realize he'd retired. I knew of him in retirement. You know, he'd
Right.
occasionally make appearances at the Oscars or whatever. But it's so, I suppose, at the back of my mind was, yeah, why doesn't he make films anymore? Well, there was the answer, because when he became a father, he gave it all up to become a stay-at-home dad. And I thought, that was my starting point. I thought, wow, why? And then when you dig back into his past, you realize, because of his traumatic childhood, he was so determined that he was going to be the best father he could, and not be an absent father, which a continuing movie career would have meant.
Right. Jennifer, what has it been like for you, the experience of watching, this on television, watching Jason play your father? What was that like for you?
Well, it goes way back because Jeff and I worked very hard together. Thankfully, Jeff's very collaborative, and so we worked on the scripts for years. And it's one thing to see it on the page, but yes, watching it being brought to life and someone, first of all, finding that person was very tricky indeed. So I was very grateful to find Jason, that we found Jason, and that he really had dad's voice and dad's mannerisms and dad's tenderness, especially. So it was a bizarre process, watching my mom and dad. What was particularly lovely is seeing their romance. Once I was born, things sort of went to pot and they had a troubled relationship. So it was really nice to see them in love and happy, and what went into the making of me.
All right. Now, Jeff, can you talk a bit about balancing? Obviously, you have to add stuff to the real story. How do you decide that, like, what it's okay to add and what you want to stick really close to?
Yeah, I mean, self-evidently, there weren't video recordings of conversations Carrie had in the 1960s, the 1930s, as a kid. So it's the process is about an emotional truth. It's about trying to understand the man as much as you can, and principally, I'm talking to his daughter and his ex-wife and his last wife, Barbara. And so you have a sense of who he was, and then my process would then be to work out what the story is. And the story was this unbelievable Dickensian tale of a young boy who comes from nothing in turn of the century Bristol to become this incredible movie star, and then this amazing revelation from his father that when he was told all those years ago that his mother had died, she was in fact still alive, and what he'd done was have her committed, as men could in that era, on their say, to a mental institution. So how that impacted him from then to the end of his life. So I knew the framework, and then it's a question of trying. And I think as a writer, you have to embrace that. I'm not an arrogant person, but you have to embrace the arrogance of thinking you can give him words. And I wasn't conscious of anything other than to try and be truthful and to try and think how he would have expressed himself. And then it was a great process, because Jennifer would say, no, he wouldn't express himself like that. He would be more like this. And Diane would say, oh no, when he was angry, this happened, or whatever. And I really enjoyed that creative process. I really enjoyed everyone kind of coming together and knocking it around. And it wasn't really until, honestly, the last week of post-production, we'd almost locked all the 4 episodes. And finally, we all took a breath and thought, okay, I think this works. And then the last element was Jennifer. Brilliant suggestion was from her private family albums, we just included these wonderful magical images of the man in his 60s, 70s, 80s, just enjoying being a father.
Well, I very much enjoyed it. I watched it all last night. So I watched it all in one piece and I really enjoyed it. So thank you. Thank you for your time. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.